a field
Yeah, I
program.
know that,
And basically you
I can
select
get hold
the
of
site that
someone-
you want to
someone
monitor,
here.
and you end up monitoring for a while.
I don't
So
often-
if you're interested,
Oh, okay.
yeah. And,
I take
a couple
notes.
more of you. Also, Tom was a master naturalist. Oh, you took your hat off.
I did.
No, you
I
look
changed
different.
different. Yeah,
You look
that's, I do
different.
that just a shot.
Are you the same person?
I am.
Okay. So Tom was a master naturalist 2 years ago. You got
This
your
last year, right?
last year
spring.
got certified. I don't know. Did you do your work?
Yes. I
Okay,
did.
good.
I did. Did my work with the classes, yeah.
You did everything.
Yeah.
So he's also works for the Forest Service.
I work with the Forest Service, yeah.
You can take it from there.
All right, well, hello. I met some of you earlier. I do want to refresh on names and stuff, so I'm Tom Crawford and
I'm Sally.
Sally. Nice to meet you, Sally.
I'm John.
John.
Diane.
Diane. Okay,
Nice to meet you.
good.
Stephen.
Steven, yeah.
Richard.
Yeah, so I really would like to talk and have this more as a conversation if we can. There's, you know, I could probably talk all day about any particular slide that I throw out there. I've got 100 slides. So if you have a particular interest or a project coming out, so let's talk a little more detail about it. We're gonna make it free going because we can adapt to whatever you guys want to hear. So,
She'll probably bring her.
tell you a little bit about myself, and then we'll talk. I'd like to know a little bit about what your expectations and experiences are too. So, we have what, all till noon? Is that correct?
Yes.
So, what I thought is, like I said, I'd show maybe half of these slides, and at some point, maybe we'll go outside and I can show you some of the materials some new materials that we use for revegetation and work and other things. The title probably doesn't match as what's the title of the course today is what, rangeland and wetland something? Okay, so no worries, but we're gonna talk about cool stuff that you haven't heard before. I hope so. So anyway, my job is watershed restoration, and I have a really unique job in the Forest Service, and I've been on the Payette Forest for 22 years, doing nothing but watershed restoration, which is pretty unique in a situation. My job is also just seeing through the implementation of projects. So I don't get hooked into all the NEPA that geologists actually have to be at the desk and do the NEPA documents and get looked and all that and not actually go out and do the projects. So I work for all geologists to implement the projects and work with them to develop projects. So it's kind of unique that I don't have to do the NEPA part because I can concentrate on actually the execution of the projects. And we'll talk a lot what projects are and everything else. Watershed restoration, you know, the forest is like 2.2 million acres. And we have pretty diverse forests. I mean, the east side of the forest is a lot different than the west side of the forest. Mostly due to geology. I think you had the geology talk. Did John come talk?
Yeah, John was there.
Great. You know, I missed
weeks
it
ago.
2 years in a row now. I still miss his talk, but I worked closely with John for the whole time he was on Payette, and well, he was actually longer than I am. He just retired, by the way.
Yeah.
Oh, you did, just recently?
Yeah.
He said he was gonna retire.
Yeah.
His
He
daughter's
just
married.
retired, yeah. I went to his campfire. It was fun. Where I was getting to is, you know, I've been kind of really fortunate that I was able to experiment with a lot of different techniques and funding for developing what works on the Payette and what works on different places on the Payette. And I spent a lot of time in Stibnite, actually, you know, working over the past, like I said, 22 years. And then my start was the South Fork of the Salmon River Road, which you'll see lots of photos on real shortly. But like I said, I'd like to adapt this to whatever your interest is. And I would like to get into a little bit of the details of things you probably haven't heard before. It's like, how do you put a seed order together? You know, if you ever need to put a project together, how do you design a seed mix? Or what's the first steps to go through? or if you want to do, if you have some bare soil, you know, what are those steps to get that back to natural? It comes down to a definition of what's the difference between, you know, revegetation and restoration and reclamation, and you know, those are big, you know, those are the things that we need to think about. So I'm going to just go through the slides, and feel free to ask any questions you have. We've got, you know, some time to play with. If we run short of time, I might just pass through some slides, because I've pretty much through the gamut. I have like years of PowerPoint presentations that I've been doing for a long time, and last night was really fun to throw all those slides, my favorite slides, all into one. You know, so this is what we're going to see, is a whole bunch of different stuff. And so I like to start with this slide because, for one, you know, our forest is right in the middle of the state, and this is the forest shape, and these are delineated in watershed boundaries. The pink area is designated as areas that support listed fish. So we have salmon, steelhead, and bull trout as listed fish species, that are endangered species. And because of that, there's a big emphasis on the forest to make sure we don't damage those areas, damage the habitat of those areas, or restore the habitat where there's damage. Or I'd say damage, or basically where there's, you know, room for improvement, so to speak. So the forest is 2.4 million acres. I think it might be 2.2. Actually, it might be wrong. But we have 3 listed species, and so over 3/4 of it is, you know, supports the listed fish populations. And so where we're over here on the west side of the forest, this is what we call our timber base. This is where most of the timber production and this is almost all of the timber base is here. You can see how we have little areas of bull trout here are very, very important. And so that helps, you know, and then areas here in the little salmon, pull my pointer, that actually has a little timber base in there too, like Boulder Creek. And so those areas are very important to protect. And so here's just a quick list of the type of projects I get involved in. I'm a forest resource. We have a crew that is specially designed for these projects. And so we have a standing crew. This has been going on for almost 20 years now. We're as a forest-wide resource. And so any of the districts that need help with any kind of revegetation, especially the road decommissioning and closures, that's actually the bread and butter of the program, because there's a lot of that to do. And that directly helps improve the watershed conditions and the fisheries. And we'll go into the details of that later. But road to trout conversions are one of my favorite things to do. Anytime you take an old road and make a cool trail out of it, that's pretty fun. And it's a lot more technical than you think. The infrastructure of a road is not the same as the infrastructure of a trail. And to convert that, it takes, you know, some heavy dirt moving. And so we get involved with a lot of heavy equipment. Any type of erosion control or revegetation. And I like to think of my job as kind of a fix-it man. Like if there's damage on the forest, you know, our crew is designed to fix kind of damaged place of the forest. And really, that's what watershed improvement is trying to fix or damage, restore back to natural as possible. So, fish habitat improvements. There's lots of opportunity. We have a target every year to improve habitat, and so everything I do basically can contribute to that target, and we have special projects for that all the time. Over the years, it's been pretty fun to actually get into the stream and do channel restoration stabilization. Most of the time, it's because we have the road in the wrong place, you know, a bad place. So the road takes precedent over the stream channel for some reason, but we'll see lots of photos of that too. Slope stabilization. We have roads, we have unstable cuts. You know, there's erosion, you know, on cut slopes. Most of the cut slopes aren't at angled repose. They're not at a stable angle. So they're going to erode. And so how do we mitigate that? You know, how do we fix that? Sometimes you can't until you take it all the way up the mountain or something like that. There's some major investments. So we do, when we do have slope failures, we do our best to reshape it, stabilize it with vegetation. And we've developed a lot of techniques over time for that. This year, they're starting the Goose Creek Canyon. Federal Highways is actually rebuilding the road to Brundage Mountain. And so they are employing us as a Forest Service. It's our, they're actually giving us money to do the revegetation and slope stabilization behind the project.
So they're
So-
rebuilding the road from the highway up to Brundage, but
Yeah.
not the canyon, not
The canyon, oh, see, I thought that's what, because they said Goose Creek, I thought that's what they meant.
Okay.
Well, I found out that just recently that it's the road to go to Brundage.
Now, what are they gonna do to it?
Well, they're going to
Widen.
widen it. It's pretty curvy in places, but improve the drainage on some of the big culverts that they have. So widen it means that they're gonna have some new cut slopes, but also open it up so sunlight gets to it, so it doesn't hold the snow so much. So it'll be bigger and improved, a little bit higher standard. And Federal Highways is taking it on, so that's kind of interesting.
It is.
And we've done projects for Federal Highways in the past where, they've given us like $30,000 to go behind them and revegetate.
But it's not a federal highway.
Well, it's interesting. Neither was Elk Creek, way out by the South Fork of the salmon, but they get involved in some of these back projects. Neither is the road from Riggins up to Salmon. Federal Highways did that road. And so those are kind of projects we get associated with our forest. So we negotiate with another federal agency that we negotiate with for revegetation.
But they're gonna go and do something to Cloud Point.
Yeah, so who knows? It's gotta be, I don't know.
I always thought it was interesting on the salmon when they had a big CCC camp at French Creek working up the salmon, and then they had another big crew coming down the salmon from Salmon City. And they, the plan at the time was they were gonna connect up and make that a highway.
This is back in the 30s.
Yeah.
Yeah, you bet. The CCC did some amazing work. If you
Yeah.
go out in the South Fork of the Salmon River Road and down what we call the 3 Mile Road, Hamilton Bar, you guys know where that is at all? Basically where the confluence of the CSASH and the East Fork and the South Fork are.
Oh, yeah.
There's
Yeah.
tons of
Yeah.
South Fork, right?
Okay.
Well, there's 3 miles of road there. It's called the 3 Mile Road, and it dead ends.
Uh-huh.
But it dead ends at a trail that goes down the salmon.
Yeah.
And you can go down the trails in, and you can go to Willie's Ranch or Davis Ranch and Hedinger Ranch and all those things down there. That trail was built by the CCC, and it's absolutely gorgeous. And especially in June, you go down there when the river's raging. The rock work that they did was outstanding. You can see culverts. You're walking over something. As if I just passed a stream channel and didn't see a culvert or anything. I looked back, and it's a beautiful arched little rock bridge thing, and it's held up over multiple storm events. And we're talking that was done in the 30s, and just beautiful rock work. So just a little plug for that. That's awesome. But I don't think we could duplicate that work. It's impressive. So slope stabilization, abandoned mine site, and Superfund sites. That's a little outdated. We never really had a Superfund site. I should qualify that a little bit. It was a surplus site, but not so much a Superfund site. But bear funds and emergency watershed protection. So emergency watershed protection was fire and floods. So bear funds would be burned area emergency rehab. That's what that stands for. And emergency watershed protection is protecting watersheds from the flood situations after fire. So fire and flood. And we have a lot of that. That's a natural process on the forest that we can't really fight. But our roads get in the way. And other infrastructures and private homes too. So those are the kind of things that we're trying to protect is those things, not try to fight the natural process. So I'm going to get right into the pictures. These are the last words you'll see for a long time. But I wanted to present just something I brainstormed this last night. Hey, how do you put a project together? And so when I show you some of the projects I worked on, think about this this is basically a system or method. You know, as a naturalist, you know, we may be involved in actually designing the project or putting the project together. There's some bare ground or some bank erosion or something that needs to be done, and you might have an opportunity to do that. You guys see yourself doing that in the future, potentially?
Kind of small.
Yeah, at a small scale. You apply this at any scale, even your yard. You know, think about it that way. But when you got larger projects and other projects that needs to be done, these are the things you need to think about when you're doing a restoration project. And you know, first of all, you got to figure out what you really want. You know, what's the reasonable and the right objectives to have for a project. Let's say we have some bare soil out in the forest somewhere, disturbance, and what our objective would be is to bring back the natural vegetation, not necessarily an alfalfa field or crescent wheatgrass, right? You know, with nothing. We want appropriate vegetation for the site. If this was a wilderness area and there was a big disturbance for whatever reason, you know, we would have even stronger other types of objectives versus than someplace in the timber base or even a mine site. So there's different levels of restoration that we'd be looking at. Wilderness would be looking at not only, you know, the same vegetation but the same genetics. You know, we'd be looking at genetic integrity as much as we do. Not so much where a mine site, we may be only looking for erosion control, you know, because it may be turned over again, or we're just trying to get the first step, you know. So there's different levels of objectives. So for a restoration project, does that make sense? Okay, good. So objectives are really important, and then of course all the coordination that goes with it. You know, the Forest Service has multiple resources. When I say resources, meaning like we have fisheries, we have minerals, we have cultural resources, we have range management, timber, special uses. I can go on and on. Weeds and weeds are a big issue. So when we do a project, we got to make sure that it's all compatible and conducive, and that they understand what's going on and where we're doing it, so we don't step on other toes. Or say we do a road decommissioning and take out a road or do a road stroke conversion, and there's a big patch on that that we didn't know about, and we're running heavy equipment through there. So that you know, so we need to coordinate with these other resources to make sure that those things are treated first, and then coordinate the fact that you know, our timing. Sometimes it's range management. They have a fence or an improvement that we have to work around or whatever. So there's always those things, and especially cultural resources. You can step on a foot without even knowing that there's something there, because they don't actually publicize those areas, right? You know, you know, they don't even provide that information to us until we have a project proposed that there's something out there. And so we always have to have a check. We have a system check. We call it concurrence check through all the other resources. And so we have a roundtable meeting. That's what I've been doing this spring, is actually gathering those resources together and say, hey, this is what we're going to do this year. These are the areas. Study it. Go back and figure, you know, make sure that we don't have any conflicts with those resources. And so it saves a lot of headache in the long run by doing that. Now you can apply that to anything you do, any project you do. You know, call before you dig type thing. It's the same with resource, you know, on state ground and anything else. You need to kind of check with those agencies and resources. So think about that. And then of course, at some point, you're going to have to choose how you're going to get the project done, right? So choosing your methods. And I'm going to present, you know, quite a bit of techniques and things like that. So you need to have a whole bag of tools to work from, and you kind of choose that. And then once you chose how you're going to try to establish or reestablish your vegetation or something, then you're going to have to figure out, okay, what's the timing, what my equipment needs, you know, how am I going to get it done, with, you know, what kind of workforce, and of course your materials. And so, and then at that point, once you kind of got that nailed down, then you can start thinking about what it's going to cost you. You know, and so you can see how this all flows. So the cost analysis is pretty important. Sometimes you don't have all the information, you gotta kind of speculate a little bit. I've developed some spreadsheets for